Hey, Dr. Torchio from the Pangea Health Podcast, and today I have a special guest. I actually left the studio and came to be with Ranae Staley from The Giving Plate, and you guys know that we talk about health for your family, health for you, and our purpose at Pangea is to save lives. I know, Renee, we've talked about that before. So I thought it would be really fun if we started coming out into the community and interviewing other folks in the community where they share a similar purpose and passion and are on a mission to help save lives in some variation. Everyone's story is different, every business is different, but certainly Renee, from the moment I met you years ago, gosh, it was probably like a decade ago.
It's been a while.
I knew that this woman was on a mission to help save lives in our community. So we're at the Giving Plate. We wanted to come here so you could see the new storefront. So many people in the community know you, and you've touched more lives in the community than maybe anyone else I know. And I mean that, and you're a humble person, but I want to give you that pat on the back. I know you don't need it, but your journey and your passion to serve is unparalleled. So we're at the Giving Plate. Some of our listeners maybe don't know what the Giving Plate is. Yeah. Give us like the 30,000 foot view of who Ranae Staley is and how you ended up here in this amazing place for our community.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
It's been a journey. Yeah, a big journey. So just 30,000 foot as fast as I can, fly through 14 years. This is actually our family's nonprofit. So my parents are the founders. And we started this as a family in 2010. Okay. So it was after 2008 recession, and it knocked our family on our butts. And we were always the helpers, the servers. Yeah. I'd done missions work overseas. My mom had recently started to volunteer at the Shepherd's House making meals. We were all living together. I was pregnant with my second child, married. My mom hadn't married Gary, who's my stepdad, who she's married to now yet, but they knew each other. But my mom and husband and oldest child and I were living and renting a house together, just trying to rebuild our lives after losing our homes. It was so humbling, and while at the Shepherd's House, we saw a lot of food wasted. And so my mom got this nagging idea, like, what if we could just get that food into the hands of people like us?
Wasted like
it just was sitting on shelves expiring and not getting used. And so
people were donating food, and then it would just
expire.
To
the shelter, and they didn't really have a kitchen facility then, and some of those things aren't good for bulk meals.
Sure.
And so it was all this food that's more household food that was sitting down in their basement. So we had this family project. We went down in their basement and organized
Mom's
the basement.
Like, come on, crew.
Yep. And down there, I have a picture of myself and Naomi. She was like probably 1 or 2 or something little, and we're organizing their food down there. And it was down in the basement that she had this idea, and she presented it to them, but they felt like it was a mission shift and just didn't want to bring that on as a new program, even though she was willing to run it. But she couldn't shake the idea. Yes. And she happened to have a settlement that she'd been waiting on, where an air seat blew out on her on a mission trip in Mexico on the school bus. Got like $20,000 right in this window. Okay. And rather than using it to rebuild her life, she just felt this calling to do this little mom and pop food pantry. And we had people tell us we'd fail, like it wouldn't work. It was a bigger project than we realized. But you tell my mom she's gonna fail, and then she gets a little bit more tenacious and is like, well, I'll fail trying, because she couldn't shake it. And so we took the step, and really our faith founded. Our program is not a religious program, but our journey is very much a faith journey. And for us, there's a story about a little boy who gave his lunch to Jesus. He multiplied it and fed thousands. So humble gifts can really expand when they're put out in faith.
Let's go.
And so we just said, we have time, we have passion, we have enough to get this off the ground, but definitely not enough to feed the goal of 500 families.
That was the goal?
That was our audacious mountain before us.
But that was put on your hearts.
What if we could help 500 families? How incredible could that be when we have nothing more to give than about, it was about 12,000 of her 20 that she launched this with. And we became the fastest growing food pantry in Central Oregon. We're now the largest. And it literally, for the first 7 years, was just this like journey of faith of just having massive growth, but never having a lot of resources. So it was always just sliding into the end of the month, like, okay, we made it. We couldn't take any pay from it for years and years and years because there just was always just enough to pay for what was needed. And then 2020 hit, and it catapulted us into a whole new level of service to the community. At that point, I had taken over as the ED, and we were able to start saving some money because we were.
What was the initial timeout pause?
Yeah.
What was the initial reaction, or what did you feel in your heart when COVID went down? As one of the only places where, like, how many pantries are there in Central Oregon?
So there's a lot of, there's several churches who have pantries like once a month. And then there's St. Vincent and Salvation Army, and they're smaller.
Yeah. But this is like a whole nother level.
This is a whole nother level where we went into this work with a mindset of ministry.
Sure.
Like, we have this heart and ministry calling to help people and to love people through the hard phase they're in right now, with the hope that they can find hope that this isn't their forever reality, that the future has opportunity for them and they'll get through it.
Yeah.
So to just champion them. But when COVID hit, I mean, none of us had the playbook. I think I came to you a few times. I'm like, what are you doing, Dr. Andrew? Like, I didn't even know. Like, even my mom was like, I think you need to close it down for a while. But something in my heart just was like, no.
Yeah.
Now this is what we were being prepared for.
Right.
And it really, I never saw myself as a first responder. I could never work in an ER and deal with that kind of trauma, but something just like clicked in my heart where I was like, no, now's the time and we'll figure it out. I call
all
it
in.
Failing forward.
Absolutely.
Like, every day was just like, oh, that doesn't work. So tomorrow we're trying something new. And sometimes halfway through the day, I'd be like, okay, shift, this isn't working. We got to try this. And it was crazy because even just our volunteer pool shifted in massive ways because we operate off of a lot of retired individuals who just didn't feel safe on the front lines. And it brought in a whole new crew of people who were like, let me be on the front lines. And we got through it and had massive growth. But it was where we were finally positioned in the eyes of the community as a viable nonprofit that was serving a viable need. And food was what people were thinking about.
Yeah.
You go to the stores, the shelves are like wiped, empty. Toilet paper was gold. It was just really incredible. And the news kept showing up to record us. I think it was like once a week, it felt like they were coming to the Giving Plate, which was crazy. But they kept asking, like, how are you handling all this COVID growth and the impacts to your work? And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, felt more inspired by our community during COVID than I did ever before. Yeah. We struggled to get the community to see us up to that point. And then when everything hit the fan, the people in the community finally looked up and looked out at what they could do to be part of making a difference, which really inspired me that even though the media wants us to think we're so divided, we actually have amazing people in our community who want to rally together. And
of course.
So I actually look at just stuff in the economy as very different from COVID because I saw the power of community in a really dynamic, hard season that impacted us all.
What a testament to faith. I mean, there's so many nuggets in that. I mean, as a business owner, yes, there's so much to unpackage there. But the number one thing that stands out to me is the world was falling apart. And you have something here that you're a part of. We've talked a lot about this. It's not like the Renee show is the ED. It's like God put this on my family, and I was able to step in and nurture this and take this to the next level that we didn't know was possible, but God knew it was there for us.
Yeah.
And while everything's falling apart, there is this analogy, like that's when leaders are born. But you weren't like, you didn't know how to do it, but you're like, we're going to figure it out.
I'll stay in the game.
Keep us in the game
Yeah.
so that we can keep serving people.
Yeah.
And clearly, it's a testament to faith.
It actually has championed my personal faith to a whole new level, because life is never easy. And I work in a field where I hear people's heart day after day after day. And even though now we've worked through our own season and we don't need this service, when we started the Giving Plate, we were like the face of our guest. But we had hope, we worked hard, we got through it, and we're to this new season, and I don't need the services to survive anymore. But life is always hard, and life always throws curveballs. We're always stretched and challenged. It's just our society right now, we have these social personas that we present that give a false sense of people's realities, when behind the screens, life is messy.
Everyone's
people walk through the door of a food pantry in that space of humility where they're finally showing up saying, I need help. It's too hard. I can't do it on my own anymore. And they start to unpack the pain that they're shoving. Because when you're hustling, you're just kind of pushing it.
Suppressing the pain.
And I know for you guys, you're like, that just feeds into stress factors, which is terrible for our health. I know you guys champion me a lot about managing stress, because it's carrying the stress of our own lives, but hearing the heart of other people's lives. And it's just a lot of dynamics there that go into play that we want to get people through. And I have just going through what we went through with COVID, hearing what I hear, I feel so much more championed in my own faith that even though life is hard, there is always hope. And our circumstances do not define our worth or our value or our future. But a lot of our community and friends attach their circumstances to their worth and their future, and then they get stuck in them. And so for me, it's very much about showing people that you're worthy regardless of the hard you're going through right now. So don't lose that feeling of worth for the future, which is why we wanted the space to feel so beautiful for our guests.
And it really is. It's it's like a fancy grocery mart. It's so cool. So you told me something in the past, and I wanted to touch on this. At your last location, you said I'm going to mess this up. So
okay.
Pick it up and make it, the Giving Plate, Ranae Staley. So, but the thing that struck with me is you said we wanted to provide a space where people can come and they cannot feel ashamed about asking for help. And one of the things that I think is really unique and special about this gift for our community is that it literally is set up like a grocery store. So talk on that a little bit. What was the thing that you told me? You're like, they can come here and with dignity and know that they don't have to feel like they're asking for a handout, but they can almost experience this okay, it's something that is going to help me. And then they get transformed and they get hope and they can have some dignity in the process, and the future looks bright for them.
Right. So I phrase that, feed hope.
Okay.
So you see on the back wall, it says fight hunger, feed hope. Hopefully if you're watching
they
this,
can see
you
it.
can see that. So that is a slogan, and it's not just a feel-good slogan that we use. I actually feel so passionate about what feeding hope is and how essential that is to our equation here. And I've been challenged with that, where people are really hope, it feels like an ambiguous kind of word, feed hope. Isn't that just a catchy thing? Shouldn't it be feed sustainability, or getting people out of this and making them sustainable on their own? And I'm I hear what they're saying, but here's the thing, and I think you'll get this. So I can give someone food, and I don't want the Giving Plate to be transactional. anyone can put a bag of food into someone's hand who is needing nourishment. And in that moment, that meets a need in the moment. But it doesn't do anything generally to the heart besides like, okay, there's a little relief, like my stomach, I don't have to feel hungry now, but a need's been met. And so from the beginning, we've always wanted to not just be a transactional organization, but be relational. So we call those, we serve our guest, because a guest you bring into your space, you're intentional to create care and like, do you need water? So we, right over here, we serve coffee and treats to like, hey, would you like a coffee?
And you have a dining
little
area.
like coffee hospitality area. So those are just meaningful ways of creating connection. Yeah. And for a long time, that was all we could do. Our space was limited. We did a drive-up style. And so we've always tried to lead in care and compassion. But in this new model, what I'm really seeing is the power of showing someone their worth and their value, because food relief especially has this stigma of like a warehouse, a cold environment. Yeah. Like it's not a warm encounter and relational experience. And so there's a lot of shame and stigma around it. And people shouldn't feel bad or guilty that they need help.
It doesn't have to be like you're outside freezing cold, feeling bad for yourself, waiting for the door to open to go in line and get your bread and your soup.
See if your number's called, and then like, is there enough food left? And so this gets me. Like, I actually have had some recent experiences that have really just lit me up when it comes to feeding hope and made me even more passionate about it. But hope is the foundation to resilience. If someone believes their circumstances to find their future, or that they'll never get through what they're going through, they will forever stay stuck in the mindset that keeps them where they are, because they'll never believe in more. And so if they can start to see that they're worthy, that people care about them, that their circumstances are just circumstances for now, but they don't have to define their tomorrow, you have a light that clicks within someone, and it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes tunnels just look dark forever. You look down them and you never see light, and it's just like, I'm gonna be in this darkness forever, and this is just who I am. And every time I talk to someone, I'm just I'm gonna clothe myself in this identity of my circumstances and define myself this way. We've all talked to those people who their hard is who they define themselves as. But then there's people who can say, I'm going through hard, but I know this, I'm gonna get through this. So somewhere in there, within them, they have a hope for the future. Yeah. And within them, they feel worthy of something more. And so for me, it's like a way to show our guests that they're worthy of more, is to give them something beautiful, and to be a space where they can come in and meet people who just care, and they're not questioning their circumstances. They're just smiling and laughing with them, giving them a cup of coffee, normalizing their circumstances, because we're all going through hard. So why does hard have to feel isolating? It should feel like, well, we're all going through hard. Now, how do we champion one another through that? And so we have our guests, they'll come in and they'll just make comments like, I just feel normal right now. And to me, it's like a simple comment, but the source of that is actually pretty emotional when you really think they go through life feeling different because of their hard. Or I just feel like somebody here. Everyone should feel like somebody, right? Like that actually gives me goosebumps even just right now. So for me, this sense of creating space that normalizes hard circumstances and just shows people that just because life's hard and circumstances are hard doesn't mean that defines your worth. And there's hope for the future. And that's when I can get people to not rely on the giving plate forever. And there's so many people who just use us in their space of hard, and then they don't they're not using us indefinitely. The majority of the people who come to the Giving Plate, I would term as the working poor. They're on a fixed income, they're working hard, or seniors who have a fixed income. And that's a little trickier because there's not a lot you can do at that phase to try to rally more funding because of your health and the season you're at in life. But there's so many like moms working multiple jobs, single moms with kids, and they're hustling hard, or health diagnosis that comes through that rocks a family, or relational situations where parents divorce or relationships break up, and that rocks a person financially. But none of those are few of those situations that come up are ones that will define that person's whole future. So it really is, for me, everything. When I think about our space and what we're doing, it's like, let's get really creative with how we feed hope.
Was this your idea? Was this like your vision to create a marketplace shopping experience?
I've had a lot of years to sit with this dream in my heart.
I'm blown away how cool this is.
Some of the closest friends of mine, I couldn't even give enough visual words to help them to really get what was in my mind until they walked into the space too. I mean, even my mom, who I am constantly sharing my dreams with, and still is in awe of what this has become. And I am too, because really I had a vision, but I needed the people who had the abilities to take what I was capturing in my mind and on my Pinterest boards and all these things and make it a reality. So even as I sit in this space,
you need integrators in your
I
life.
just am like, wow, this is incredible how this has all come together. And it feels like more than even I hoped for, because you bring people in and they're like, well, what about this? Like the plates on the walls, I didn't have that in my mind. But then when the designer was like, what about this? I'm like, I love that idea. That is incredible.
There's an amazing children's area.
There's a children's pantry here with a playground in there, and it's
cool.
so fun and special. Kids actually run in and have so much joy coming in. One little girl told her mom when she pulls in, she's like, yay, we're coming into my store. And the joy of owning that as her space to come and not feel the shame for a child is so childhood hunger is actually where our biggest niche and passion is. So it's just not hunger in general I'm passionate about, but when it comes to kids, 3 of our 4 hunger relief programs are just about kids.
So let's transition to that. Pangea Chiropractic has always been a huge advocate. For anyone listening, it's always on the conversation table at Pangea. How much can we give? How many drives can we do at the office? What can we do to support this? Because a lot of our purpose is to help kids, because we believe if we can teach a kid how to stay healthy, then they can be healthier for life. I mean, it's easier to help a kid get healthy than it is to take a 50-year-old who's been, 5 decades of breakdown to a healthy space. So for the listeners, for the Pangea family, what can we do as a Pangea family to rally for the Giving Plate during this season to help fulfill some of the needs that you have?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
And you guys always have been big champions of the Giving Plate.
We love what you're doing, and we're with you.
You've seen where we've come from, so you understand how far we've come in this new space. But some of the ways that we need help right now here at the Giving Plate, since opening in April. So we opened in this community store April this year, and we have seen substantial growth. We're at over almost a 35% increase in the number of families we're serving now in our grocery program compared to prior to us opening in this model. And that's been a lot of growth in a short period of time. But on the backside of that, this year with inflation and just what's going on in the economy, we've seen a decline in donations to the program, like food donations, as well as monetary donations. So we have a big year-end push right now to just break even with our budget. And I still have about $350,000 left to raise to break even with our budget. But we're coming into that year-end phase where people are more generous. They're thinking about year-end giving. They're thinking about all those things. So I have a lot of hope and faith that we'll meet that need
Amen.
by the end of the year. But when it comes to kids, we are not just about food. Our mission is to ensure no one's going hungry, but feeding hope is so important to me. And so we have a really big event for kids at Christmas called the Jingle Store, and that's coming up. And it has ballooned into this massive endeavor for us. We take over the downstairs of the river
so
house.
Cool, yeah.
We turn it into this whole experience where the kids walk through. They come into different lands, we call them, where there's the princesses. This year they'll meet Beauty and the Beast, and then they go into Nutcracker Castle and they meet ballerinas from the Nutcracker. We have Elf Lane and Frosty's Forest where Elsa, Anna, and Olaf are. And then they go into Santa's Space Station. They meet Star Wars characters. And then they get Mr. and Mrs. Claus. They have a candy store, and then our Jingle Store. Like, this is like
special thing.
Huge. It is truly special. But the amount of energy that goes into this is no joke, because it's not just gathering gifts. It's coordinating. It's pretty much all volunteer driven, and it's about 600 different volunteering spots within 9 days of December. So right now we're pushing hard for toy drives to have about 950 children be able to come in, and they get Jingle Bucks. So our program's a little different twist to the standard Christmas where parents are giving gifts to give. We want children to feel the empowerment of giving too, because there's magic around being able to give.
Definitely.
And these kids have to taste that. They need to experience what it is to give and not just be receivers.
Yeah.
Because the psychology of that too is if all they know is asking for help all the time, that's what they're going to duplicate
For sure.
as they grow. So if we can start to teach them the power of giving at a young age and be a champion of that, we can help set them up, because they've tasted something that has actually more power is in the gift of giving than receiving. And so we encourage them to use their Jingle Bucks and shop for their siblings. So instead of shopping for self, they're shopping for those people in their family. And then they get to say they put something under the tree for these people that they love and have that empowerment. And it's a really powerful dynamic that we feel strongly about providing. And this model is something the parents love. Kids start asking parents about it in the summer, so we start getting inquiries about when can we sign up, and it's pretty
So we need volunteers.
We need volunteers for that. We need gifts for
donations.
that. We're still looking we still have 3 more lands that can be sponsored.
Okay.
Or you can sponsor us purchasing toys. You could be a toy sponsor through a monetary donation, or just going and buying gifts and putting them in the store. I will say teen gifts are the ones that really get overlooked. It's easy to get stuff for littles, but those teenagers that just get overlooked, so that part of our store tends to be thinner.
Great.
So there's lots of ways to partner.
Of course, any listeners, and if there's some listeners that need your service.
Absolutely.
So if someone's listening and maybe this is a moment for them to have hope because they're tuning into
Absolutely.
this. Are they invited to come in?
Absolutely.
What are the hours?
Yeah.
When can they come in if they're in need to come into a safe place and experience this thing that is for them?
Yes. I'm really glad you asked that, because the reality is there are people watching this who are just silently suffering, and they're probably ready to cry right now as they're like, I need this, but their shame has kept them from showing up, or that embarrassment that people are going to know that they need help. And so we have made this space just for you. So I'm looking at you in the screen. I want you to know this space is for you. And there's a story I just want to tell because I think it will speak to the person who's watching this who's so afraid to come. There was a local business in town, and one of the employees reached out and she said, our coworker has had something come up. He's a single father. He needs food, but he won't come. And I'm just going to bring him because he needs to get help. And so I gave her the hours for her to bring him. And she came with him and he walked in the door, and she recapped this to me later because she sent me a message. She said, I'm in tears right now. And I said, oh, really? Well, tell me what's going on. And she said, my friend walked through the doors. He wouldn't look anyone in the eyes. He just looked down. He didn't really want to talk much. She said, but by the time he was leaving, he was laughing with the volunteers at the checkout and sharing how he couldn't wait to bring his kids with him the next time. Actually makes me emotional. When she was telling me this, I said, Brittany, to me, that story exemplifies what Feeding Hope is about, because that friend of hers could have come in and he could have got food and had that need met in the moment for the food his family needed. And then had to rally the courage to show up the next time. Probably not wanting his kids to know where they're getting their food because of the shame that comes with that. But instead he left laughing, looking forward to when he would come back, and bringing his child even with him, knowing his children would feel safe and find joy and acceptance here. That's the space we work really hard to create for you guys in the community. And I just want to remove any insecurities that anyone's having. We make the application process really easy. It's just a 2-sided page. You don't have to bring proof of income. We go by the honor system in good faith. And so if you're courageous enough to show up and you know you need help, we're going to help you. And we're open Wednesdays from 2 to 6. And those hours are set for those families that have children so they can bring their kids after school and access our kids corner. Thursdays and Fridays, our hours are 10 to 4. And then we're one of the only food pantries with weekend hours. So Saturday, 10 to 2, which also allows families with children to bring their kids. So you can not only get your groceries, which are available twice a month. So in a calendar month, you can come twice for groceries. But if you have kids in the home, you can come weekly for the Kids Corner program. So your kids get to shop and pick out their own food in our Kids Corner store. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think if you're brave enough to just walk through our doors, you'll realize the safety of the space that's been created for you.
It's amazing. Well, Ranae Staley, you are the OG Hope dealer in Bend, Oregon, for
now,
sure.
That's a compliment. That's what I would want to be known for.
So it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for
so
sharing a piece of the story and the hope with everybody listening. And we'll put the links down in the show notes for anyone who wants to help volunteer at the Christmas event. Also, if you want to
just volunteer here every month. We have like art, just even on a not just with Christmas. Every month there's a need for about 500 different volunteering slots that we're putting people through. We also have staff team building opportunities. If you want to come volunteer with your friends or group or your coworkers, we can put you to work now. We have opportunities for that. So
we gotta get the Pangea team signed up.
You guys would have some fun here with us. And
you like put a chiropractic table somewhere in here.
I have dreamed of that. Like, no, don't even get me going on that, Dr. Andrew.
That would be next level. Come on.
Yes, I know we have arrived to a whole new level, but I have so many more things in my heart of how I know we can continue to get better.
Well,
but it's just friendships and partnerships like this. I know, and I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.